Welcome to the Headley Highlight Show's Headley HeadSpaces. The Headspaces are a series of thoughts and musings I have during the course of the week, and I chew all over them and I share them with you. Before I could jump into this Headspace, can I thank all the new subscribers to my YouTube channel, DeniseHeadley.com, and all the donations I've had. I had one last week. I'd like more, please. At DeniseHeadley.com, please make a donation so I can keep bringing you this unique and interesting content. And the name of this Headspace is called Keir Starmer. Disingenuous, hypocritical, and probably one of the worst leaders we've had in modern times. Because I have to research my Headspaces with news items and look at things and read things, I have the opportunity sometimes to look at a breadth of commentary that you don't always look at because you don't necessarily follow those people. So as looking at the news as one does, I noticed a very sad news item. Keir Starmer, the hypocrite, disingenuous plank of wood that happens to be the Prime Minister of the UK, has just announced that he is going to be increasing defence spending. He has pledged £13.5 billion to the annual defence budget as an uplift. Fabulous, darling. As he was announcing this increase of spending, which will be stripping spending from public services, have no doubt about that, he said the following. Before I play this to you, I'd like you to think about something. The invasion of Gaza, the incursion of Gaza, the incursion into that sovereign land by a country who has broken international law and whose leaders are wanted on suspected war crimes of genocide and ethnic cleansing. The very same country, Israel, who receives support by way of logistics, bombs, munitions and data from the UK, that very same one. Let's not forget that when we listen to Keir Starmer. And you will understand why I called him a disingenuous, hypocritical leader, and also the worst Prime Minister we've had in the last 15 of those. Shall we suffer his contribution? Let's.
Good evening. I was a young man when the Berlin Wall came down. I remember it vividly. It felt as if we were casting off the shackles of history. A continent united by freedom and democracy. If you told me then that in my lifetime we would see Russian tanks rolling into European cities again, I would not have believed you. Yet here we are, in a world where everything has changed. Because 3 years ago in Ukraine, that is exactly what happened.
70 years ago in Israel, that is exactly what happened because they invaded Palestine with the first Nakba.
Just reflect on that for a second. I think it's worth it. Just imagine you're walking to work, taking your kids to school. Just another February morning like any other. Then suddenly missiles, sirens, explosions, not in the distance, not on television, in your town, hitting your community, killing your friends.
Isn't this what's happening in Palestine from the Israelis with British, French, American, German and Italian support? Isn't it, Mr. Starmer?
An invading army in your country.
If that wasn't a description of the Palestinian experience for the last 70 years, which the collective West has sat by, watched, observed, funded and not cared about, I really don't know what is. And now we're being asked by the same individual who supports that to give consent for peacekeeping troops that Britain will send to go into the Ukraine. Mr. Starmer clearly needs to have his ears flushed by a local practitioner because there is a blockage in there. He also appears to have the same blockage as the rest of the European Union. They clearly didn't observe the UN recent meeting where America and China voted together to move the Ukraine peace talks forward. maybe his staffers didn't share that bit of information with him. So once again, before his meeting with Trump, he's trying to look like an international leader. This country needs a history glow up. Our idols, Churchill, the racist, the starver of Indian people, the supporter of ethnic cleansing, we have these people as heroes, not necessarily a good idea, upon which our leaders then model themselves on. Why do you think Keir Starmer's doing anything that he's doing? Because he's so unpopular. And he knows that war is a rallying cry for consent and approval. Hence the reason why he's going down that road. He's not even been in 9 months, that man. You know, if this was a pregnancy, we're not even in the last trimester. And he's already rocking up to a hot conflict with Russia and us at the front. What a muppet. And a dangerous muppet at that. Don't forget he's pledged another $3 billion to the Ukraine for the next 100 years. Like an absolute buffoon, you cannot bind one parliament to the next, and your spending plans don't necessarily carry over for a century and some. Please. And he made Queen's Counsel. This is the top level of our political class in this country, and that's what we get. We are oh so poorly served. Breathe, Denise. Oh, let it out. Oh, but it's really jarring. So I entitled this space, Keir Starmer, the hypocrite, disingenuous plank of wood that's leading this country. Why are we here? I've added that last bit on. But I still keep asking the same question. Why are we here? You know, the British establishment, the warmongering elements, they're like Nosferatu, the undead. They just won't die. And for the sake of the country, they really need to. They need to die off in terms of their influence, as opposed to literally, but their influence needs to die off. So we can actually focus on some of the issues that Mr. Trump wants to focus on, such as domestic policies, which Mr. Starmer has none of. Hence his forte running off to every country that will receive him, like a traveling servant. Just hold your horses there, Denise. This is a family show. Anyway, I think it's time to conclude this particular headspace, which I named Keir Starmer the most irrelevant, disingenuous, hypocritical leader we've seen in this country in the last 15 leaders. You know, it's absolutely terrible when you think back and you think of the Conservatives and you even think that they were mildly better than the current state of the Labour Party. Roll on the Workers' Party representatives. Hurry and come, why don't you? Anyway, that's the end of that little venting of one's spleen about the uselessness of one's political class. I think it's time for me to retire. And go to bed, I mean. It's a late one. So that's it for me, guys. Thank you so much. Hope you've enjoyed this particular headspace. And don't forget to donate at DeniseHeadley.com and also to subscribe. See you next week, darlings. Toodle pip.